Hey, everybody, welcome and thank you so much for sticking with me through these last 6 episodes. It's been a great journey. I can't believe it's the 7th episode of what to me was an action-packed journey to figure out the worth and the value of our practices. I'm so delighted that you've come along and stuck with this. I'm hoping, and what I'm hearing is people have learned quite a bit. But before we go on, I cannot believe he's still with us. Ro, how the hell are you, man? How is Rolando doing over there, man? It's great to see you. I am so happy to see you again. And I am so psyched for this episode. It is action-packed. It's unbelievable.
First of all, thank you for letting me join. Thank you for sharing everything. I have learned so much with regard to just understanding what's in a practice. I never realized how much was involved. I am looking forward to this episode. I'm looking forward to what this all means. So bring it together. Awesome. Thank you.
Let's do it. All right. So I do want to say something. Today we're going to get some action plans involved, Rolando. We're going to really review and see what we talked about. But the most important thing is at the end, we're going to bring it all together as we compare $2-3 million practices and how their values are as night and day comparable. It is like two totally different numbers. It's going to be really exciting. Let's get to it. It's a great episode, and I'm so sad to say this is the last of these series, but there's more to come. So let's get with it. In the first episode, everybody, I think you remember I introduced the concept, and it was my concept through a lot of years of experience of the dental hamsa, or the hand that will guide us through creating a tremendous value for our practices. Remember, we discussed all the things you need to follow through and to develop that really great, efficient, sustainable practice. In the second episode, we talked about the 5 most important treatment modalities, right? We wanted to discuss the fact that each modality is important. And if you're not doing those treatments in different procedures in your practices, then I would like you to go back and analyze the procedures you're doing in each of your practices. Am I doing implants? Are we providing root canal therapy? Are we referring those things out? In the next 90 days, bring your team together, office manager, treatment coordinator, assistants, evaluate what you're doing. Evaluate what you're not doing. Am I referring out tons of root canal therapy where we should be learning it and bringing it in-house? Take those procedures, those 5 procedures, and evaluate your practice. And then in the next 90 days, 3 months, evaluate how, with the help of our teams, how do we bring them and incorporate them into our practices? Do we bring them in through doctor education and take a lot of continuing education courses? That is a way. That is definitely a factor. Do we look for associates that do Invisalign when we're not, or doing implant placement if we're not? Another great avenue to bring and incorporate these procedures. Most young dentists coming out of dental school these days are Invisalign trained. If you're not doing it in your practice, maybe that's a way to incorporate an associate. But lastly, if we're not doing implants, and at this stage in our career, we're not going to learn how to do it, look down the road, look at specialists, right, Ro? There's a lot of specialists that will come in and do a day a month or a day every 2 weeks. And there's so much value, as we discussed in episode 2 and 3, of how that value can add to your practice. So action plan, go back, evaluate the procedures you're not doing, and then have a plan in place on how we're going to incorporate those. Who says by the end of the year, you can have these things in place and ready to roll for an unbelievable 2024. In the third episode, we discussed comprehensive treatment planning. In order to be a great comprehensive treatment planner, you have to deliver these procedures in our practices. And a comprehensive treatment planner takes time. It takes role playing. It takes the idea of going back and no longer looking at our patients and looking at them as prescription dentistry, emergency dentistry. Look at them as a whole. Start with the next 10 patients. Treatment plan them from soup to nuts, perio disease, needing of implants, needing of a root canal. Don't avoid any treatment modalities. Incorporate them now into the overall comprehensive treatment plan. Work with your team. It's not just, I'm going to come in Monday and start doing this. I got to work with my team. You know, Ro, the team is so valuable in a dental practice, from hygiene to discussing. We discussed this in the previous sessions, from hygiene to planting that seed, to the doctor hammering home the treatment, and then the treatment coordinator or the office manager really explaining the finances and when we can get started. That is comprehensive treatment planning. If we're not doing that, we're missing out on the ability to have a practice that has a value of millions versus hundreds of thousands. No joke. And I'll show that to you, because that is what we're looking for. In the fourth and fifth session, we discussed financial understanding. In the fourth, we really discussed it from a standpoint of how much production, how much revenue could be generated by increasing these procedures. It was mind-boggling. It was absolutely freaking amazing that if I start doing implants in my practice, my revenue could go up millions of dollars. If I'm doing these efficiently, proficiently, in any which way we bring in, the revenue stream is phenomenal. Action plan there is simple. Understand with your team what these modalities will do and how to schedule them, how to perform them, how to collect from them. But it's like we keep saying, it's a team effort. In the fourth episode, we really dug deep into the expenses. And we really talked about how to control those expenses and the different percentages that we should keep everything at, whether it be rent. I call it the 5 to 8 rule. Rent and supplies and labs should all be in the 5 to 8% range. Maybe that's the low-hanging fruit we attack as soon as we go back. Ro, we all go back to our offices, whether it be a golf swing video that we change a little swing. They say the hips go through. Here I'm telling you, go back and use that swing to evaluate 3 things. 3 things, easy to remember. Everything will be in the 5 to 8. I want to evaluate my lease. I never looked at it. My lease numbers, takes you a minute, do it in front of a TV. How much is my lease comparable in comparison as a percentage to my top line gross revenue? What about my supplies? And what about my labs? Again, sit down with our team, maybe the head assistant, but evaluate where we could find savings, negotiations, or digital workflow. There's so many things out there, and I am available, as many other analysts or consultants. I am just a doctor who wants to help. We'll talk about this later, but if you email me or shoot me a text, I'd love to help you get to this point of feeling more efficient. But those percentages that we discussed in episode number 4 and number 5 were essential. It's the crux of how we develop more production and less expense. Keep it within that range. Give yourself 6 months. Things that we don't want things to happen overnight, but even with staffing and with supplying and with professional services, you give yourself 6 months to get all those action plans in one neat component, all within the confines of what we discussed in episode number 5. Go back, listen to it again if you're not sure, or of course, drop me a line. In episode number 6, we dove into the understanding of EBITDA. How do I become a true doctor of EBITDA or EBITDA? I don't want you to look at anything else about this word, except knowing that it is a metric of putting a value on our practices. And that value is how we're judged in the market, whether we go to an exit, transitioning to an associate, to a loved one, a child, a son, a daughter, or someone we know. But whatever it is, every business, every functioning situation, a functioning business or practice wants to put a value on that. EBITDA is that measure. And we discussed how to figure out that EBITDA. And where is it really, what should I really be worried about? No, don't worry about all the fancy amortization words and the discretionary money. Look at your two things we discussed, production and expenses. And after it all leaves, that is the bottom line to understand my profit, my operational profit. Now, those are really the crux of understanding. What's the action plan there? The action plan is go back to your office and understand that EBITDA, although it's a funny word, is really the value of the practice that it's given. And I want to get a firm understanding when I'm running my business to whatever level you want, but to get an understanding and control of both production versus expenses versus what the owner doctor is producing. Now, we're going to get into that one when we compare the two practices at $3 million. What I am saying, if we could go back to the Hamsa, please, what I am saying is this hand has all the secrets to uncovering a very successful practice. Now let's look at, right? We talked about all the things in the different sessions. Let's look at the comparison between two practices. If you look at this, there are two practices, unbelievably. I want you to take hold of this, everybody. These are two practices that are producing and grossing top-line revenue, gross, same thing, $3 million. Pretty freaking amazing. No bullshit. This is $3 million practices. So the owner of the practices are making a lot of money. They're doing very, very well. It's just a question. I'm going to show you why one has a value on the bottom or EBITDA at the bottom of 263,000, and the other has an EBITDA or a value of $1,140,000. Two $3 million practices. Almost could be in the same, actually be in the same city, could be in the same demographic. But what's the difference? Let's look at practice A. In practice A, the doctor is a workhorse, phenomenal clinician, does all the modalities, does all the 5 procedures and well, produces $2.25 million with the hands of the clinician. That's a valuable clinician, right, bro? That guy or gal is a great producer. But because they're always at the chair, they don't have the opportunity to manage the practice, the supplies, the staffing, the marketing. They run a profit of 35%. Not terrible. That's 65% overhead. Now we're going to introduce the concept of putting the exact value through EBITDA. It's actually called EBITAC. The last C is compensation. Compensation to replace the owner. If you have a doctor that's a $2.25 million producer, at 35%, it costs anybody, either your loved one, an associate, or a group, or somebody that puts a value on a consultant that you called in will put a value on your practice with the value to replace the owner doctor. The owner doctor's replacement value in this case is $787,000. Great producer. Impossible to replace him. So even though there's $1,050,000 to get to the true value of our practices, we must subtract the replacement value of what it takes to replace us. We are fucking valuable. It takes $800,000 to replace this doctor. The problem is that takes away from complete bottom line EBITDA, complete bottom line operational profit. And therefore, the value of the practice went from $1,050,000 to $263,000. If they went to the market and somebody put a multiple to sell, the practice would sell for roughly $1,500,000. That practice, for those numbers, is not sellable. That practice would have to find an associate or change its modalities and be like, let's look at practice B. Practice B has an owner-operator, loves the business world, likes to keep an eye on his supplies, loves marketing, speaks to huddles and speaks to staff every day about waste and supply orders, keeps the labs under wraps. He only produces, or she produces, $600,000 a year, has associates and specialists doing the work. The profit is 45%. At $1,350,000 to replace that owner is only $210,000. The value of that practice is $1,140,000. If that doctor went to market, they would get a better multiple because there's more profit. And entities that look for value are looking for more EBITDA to raise the profit. That doctor is running that practice as efficiently as you can possibly do. He is or she is in the realm of all the expense percentages we talked about, doing all the procedures, having huddles with the staff, making sure the expenses are all within line. And therefore, if they went to market, they'd be valued at between $6 and $7 million more than their friend across town who's doing $2.25 million. It's an amazing science to run a dental office. I am enamored by it. I am amazed by it. But if you look at what we've discussed with the dental Hamsa, with the hand of really a guide, and you look at what we talked about again, the 5 procedures, understanding comprehensive treatment planning. And if you look to those practices we just discussed, if you look to the value of how they got it, they're both doing the treatment planning. Both practices are phenomenal caregivers. The difference is how they run their business. I hear so many times, oh, it's over my head. I ask a doctor, how many new patients you got? I don't know how many new patients. This is our business. This is our business, man. Learn the business. You got 5 procedures. Bring it into our practices. Learn how to speak to patients. Comprehensively treatment plan. Then understand the numbers. If we get big bills, let's analyze them. I hear so many doctors say, I just don't like this is our lifeline. It is up to us, not you, not me, us. Us. It's why I'm doing this webinar. It's because I hear too many times doctors are lost and doctors are the kings. Look how much it costs to replace us. Look how much value we bring. That's why the world of dentistry from the corporate level that everybody's talking about is really ingratiating dentists that know how to run their business. Learn how to run it if you're not. And if you are, bravo. It's amazing. And you're going to be rewarded. I love dentistry. It's been amazing to me and my family. I've met guys and people all over the country, people like Rolando Mia. With a name like that, he's got to be a great guy. But my email is mliechtung@gmail. If you want a copy of the Hamsa, if you want to understand what my value is, I am not looking for business. If you have a question, if you want a copy, if you need something understood, reach out. I have no services to offer. I want you to know that this is done because we need to understand how to run our businesses. The more efficient practices there are, there'll be a lot more happy dentists. I had a great time. This is something I love to do. I love to talk dentistry. And look what we've done. We take in a whole new dynamic and we see 2 different practices. And if you put into the practices what we discussed, you will have such efficiencies, such practice sustainabilities. The end of our Hamsa, I just want to review the last part, and that is what this all gives us. It gives us the knowledge of going to and from work every day, knowing we've got a practice that's efficient. We have financial sustainability. Like think about those 2 practices. One has financial sustainability because they're working their tail off. The other one has financial sustainability because they're building a really powerful presence of a business. Both do it their own way. My feeling is the gentleman or the young lady or the woman who's doing the second one is got an understanding of what a great business they are running. It's all there. sustainability, work-life balance, and I've given you the key for a fantastic exit, way beyond what we ever thought. I want to thank you for taking this ride. I want to thank Rolando for being part of this ride and helping me along. But I want to thank you, the listeners and the doctors out there. Your comments have been amazing, and the encouragement has been really, really, I'm humbled by the encouragement. So thank you so much. We're going to do a lot more. And God willing, we're going to explain a lot of things in the dental profession and understand how we can make and create great businesses and great practices. For now, I am thanking you for being here for the whole ride. I want to tell you this has been a joy. Remember to ping me, call me, text me. Thank you so much. My name is Dr. Marc Liechtung, and this was Dentistry Beyond the Numbers.